a sudden it is going to become a consideration.
Well, I honestly can't think of anything recent in at state level that's involved them stopping a game because of the dangerous pitch. And it'd be interesting if anyone does know of anything to chime in and let us know. But at a state level, I can't think of anything ever happening like this.
Tony Gregg never would have got a commentary gig much past the 80s if it wasn't about putting keys into certain cracks to exacerbate the sideways movement. Once again, I haven't played the sport, but yeah, it seems to be one of the things. The pitch report, we got cracks in the pitch. Fast bowlers are going to be targeting it. Sideways movement, yada yada.
And I suppose in a lot of ways, a little bit of variability is a great thing in cricket. And I think too often in Australia we produce these pitches that are low flat wickets where one team comes out and makes 500 runs, and the next team comes out and makes another 500 runs, and we get a boring draw.
It's the unique things about the whacker is, the bounce, the steepling bounce, fast bowlers, the Fremantle Docker coming in the afternoon, you're bowling into the wind, up breeze, so all of a sudden, I am talking off hip here because I didn't see what was going on and what those balls were doing being bowled, but.
Yeah, I only saw one of the, like I think Galby said there was 2 deliveries. I only saw one of them.
That was the one I heard. There was 2 deliveries in a row that basically took off and they were unplayable.
Yeah.
I don't know who they were off, so you were saying Sean Abbott, I'm not sure, but...
Well, I'm wondering if that becomes a factor in it, because obviously they have just had a coronial inquest into which is only wrapped up in the last kind of 6 to 12 months, involving Phil Hughes.
Phil Hughes.
And, which was tragic, but, the fact that it's Abbott, I wonder if they've kind of got that playing in the back of their heads as well, going, well, we've just had him going through a coronial inquest, do we want him going through another one?
And it probably is a case of wanting to be more, overly conservative because of that history, because of, if they allow it to go on and something happens, then all of a sudden the questions come back on the umpires. Well, you saw 2 deliveries.
Is there going to be something from Cricket Australia saying... There'll have to be a line.
This is the new standard.
This is the new standard. No.
And then, then all of a sudden, anytime there's anything dodgy with the pitch...
Well, that's it. It comes back to what the curator's going to be told to prepare. We're going to prepare a road, and no one gets hurt on a road. So...
It's boring cricket, though, isn't it? It's
No one in India is going to get a game. We'll get a...
Well, yeah, that's a different organisation altogether. And again, I actually quite like watching matches in India because of that reason. Because the ball can do anything, and there's always going to be 40 wickets. There's always going to be 40 wickets in a Test match in India. In Australia, sometimes maybe not.
I always laugh at the Australian captains touring through India, just saying, the pitch looks pretty good. I was like, no. No.
I reckon 2 days before every test in India, Steve Smith said, there's a
lot
of grass out there. You're kidding, mate.
We've got cows coming in. No, there is no grass there, Tiger. This is going to turn sideways from day one. No, it's not going to happen.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if Cricket Australia does come out with something more official, just to kind of explain not so much explain the decision, because we already know the decision, but maybe a bit more of an explanation of, like you said, are they going to draw a line in the sand and say, right, from now on, this is the certain standard that we want the pitches at, or otherwise the game's not going to be played there?
Well, there definitely would be a standard that every pitch has to get to, no matter what.
But surely there's...
Cricket Australia doesn't want...
60 overs shouldn't deteriorate that standard that much that you've got to cancel a game. You imagine if that was a test match.
That was the argument. There was 20 overs to go in the match, or something along those lines. It wasn't going to get any worse.
Yeah, exactly. And what if it's a test match? You got you got 4 more days to go on that pitch. But
Cricket Australia, while they do want 5-day tests, they want a result. They want exciting cricket. They want people to actually want to go there on day 5. They're not going to go there on day 5 if Australia are still batting at 700 and X amount, and the Poms haven't even batted yet.
Yeah,
they haven't batted the second time.
Let's get 1,000.
Yeah, so they're there's going to be two types of the argument. But yeah, I'm a little bit until I can have a look and see what that sort of pitch.
No worries. Well, on to the AFL, and it is the trade season, and we've had a few interesting ones already. But the one that keeps coming up is the go-home factor. And it comes up every season, but it seems to be more prevalent in the last couple of years. And the interesting part is that these are people who generally, they've only just signed new contracts. I mean, Josh Shackey, we spoke about last week, is looking to go home. We've got Gary Ablett, who did cop a lot of media flack about him wanting to go home to spend time with his family, and then the unfortunate passing of his sister. And now the media's kind of got a bit of foot in mouth at the moment over the whole thing. And now announced today is that there's a deal done between Adelaide and Carlton over Bryce Gibbs heading, who still has a year left on his contract because he wanted to go home last year. And the late word on that one was that apparently they've been talking since day one, and they've just been kind of quietly negotiating back and forth, trying to keep it out of the media, and now they've come to an agreement with, after the 2 weeks, and Bryce Gibbs will be playing for the Adelaide Football Club next year. But the go-home factor, I mean, what's your take on it, Brucey?
It's going to drive the selection of the next draft of who these clubs are going to pick, because you're not going to go and stick all of your club's future, because let's face it, this is a future build. This is 3 years before you're probably going to get a result. So you get a number 2 draft pick now. Very rarely will that person influence your premiership push. So you're looking at your window 3-year build. So you're relying on that guy being here in 3 years, re-signing him, and him becoming a part of your premiership push in the next 3 years. This is going to drive people to just go, well, yeah, we're going to recruit. We're going to recruit from home, because we can't rely on you being here in 3 years, and it is going to change the way people recruit and how the recruiters set their clubs up.
I think it already has.
Oh, it has, but I think there's a lot of clubs with their pants down that are just susceptible to it.
The WA.
You look at Fremantle, and they basically haven't. They when they go to the trade window, they're looking for West Australians that want to come home, and when they go to the draft, they're looking at the top West Australian players, and that's all they're looking at the moment. Yeah. And that's Adelaide, because of this. But tell me another sport where this happens.
Oh, it's not right. The American basketball or gridiron or any of these sports, you get traded, you've got a week to get to your next club, and thanks for your time.
Yeah. Well, the NFL
you're picking up your Guernsey when you go through there, and that's where you're playing. If you're not happy,
only the best players get to dictate where they want to go. But a lot of the younger guys, they say it's the NFL, not for long. Like that, and that's the joke about it, is because you can get traded, you can get drafted by a club and get traded in the first 6 weeks, because that's when the trade window is open. So that first 6 weeks, you can get traded clear across the country to another team, and you will have no say.
Over the other side later
You'll have no say in that thing. But with Fremantle, Fremantle irks me a little bit, because they have gone after Nathan Wilson, who is from GWS, and he has a year left on his contract, but yet they're having a go at Gold Coast, because Gold Coast is talking to Weller, who has a year left on his, saying, how dare you talk to our player? He's a contracted player.
There's a bit of this hypocrisy going around, isn't there?
Do you guys seriously look at yourselves?
Adelaide Crows just in the same boat.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Oh, Charlie Cameron. Well, if you want him, you give us Dane Zorko. Well, that's just stupid. They're not going to give you Dane Zorko. Just say he's not. We're not trading him at all. We're not trading him at all.
Yeah, pick two.
Pick two. Just say.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Have you seen him play?
He's serviceable. He's fantastic.
Yeah, but he's not pick two.
No.
Oh, you should see some of the Freo fans are saying pick two and Brandon Material. It's like, who do you think you're getting traded? Who are you getting traded?
Gary Ablett's coming as well.
But the
go home factor is definitely going to influence the periods going forward for both clubs and also player managers. Player managers are always going to have these cards. The other one it's going to be is, which I think we've seen currently with Bryce Gibbs, Carlton, is that is they're just making things a lot more quiet in the background and
Yeah.
how they're getting this done. Because
Well, after last year, they have to.
Western Bulldogs, they're a train wreck right now.
Oh, yeah.
They've got nothing. They kicked Jake Stringer out, and they're
Yep.
going to get nothing for him.
Yep.
And they're just sitting there at the trade table going,
Essendon's
Well,
laughing.
there's a lot of Western Bulldogs fans that are going to be absolutely filthy if they don't get a trade done because
They won't get him.
They've tried to play hardball.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they told that right from the
Yeah.
word go, and then they said, "Oh no, we want two first-round draft picks for him."
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Essendon was the
Watts
only suitor.
from Melbourne.
Yeah.
Melbourne have done the right thing. They put Watts on the trade table and said, we don't want him, get rid of him.
Yeah.
They've taken rubbish for him.
Yeah.
I think
Yep. 31.
31.
30-something.
Yep.
31.
For Watts. He's better than that.
Melbourne fans aren't stoked about it, but the Melbourne board, they've addressed it the right way, where they've basically said, we're getting rid of him. We don't think he fits in our team. He's gone, wait a moment, I'm still contracted. I want to stay. And then he's gone, well, if I have to leave, I want to go to Port. Can you guys make it happen? And they have done a reasonable deal to make it happen. Where the Bulldogs have gone, we don't want you, not part of our team. The coaches even come out publicly bashed him. And then they've gone, oh, but he's fantastic, and we want him to stay
draft
here.
currency for
Yeah,
him.
we want him.
Jason McCartney, we want.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on at that club, but I don't know how they're getting players to come into the club at the moment because they're not setting a very good example for.
How would you be a stringer? Like, they don't get a deal done, and then you've got to go back into that team next year.
He's already said he's not coming back.
Yeah.
Well,
He's
what
already
happens if it happens if the trade doesn't get done?
Well,
He'll show up to training at 105 kilos with a beer gut, and
Yep.
I didn't get selected. Coach, what happened? What?
He'll
What?
be next to Tom Boyd as the most highly paid VFL player in the competition. So
He will get something. Will happen.
yeah.
Back to the
I'm
go
confident.
home factor. I mean, I look at a club like in Australia. I look at a club like the Melbourne Storm in rugby league. There are there's one player in their entire squad that is actually from Melbourne. Not once ever have I ever seen them have to get rid of a player because he wants to go home.
Yep.
It just doesn't happen, and I wonder how much of it comes back to the club because I think
It does. This is one of the ones for Brisbane's. I think we spoke about it in episode 2. Not Richard. I keep calling Richard Champion, but it's not him, from Brisbane Lions. They got him back purely from that point of view, as the rookie drafted players came and lived with his family, and they stayed.
Mm.
It was like
Well,
good family, good environment, regular feeds, the house, everything else like that. You know, they do. And the West Coast are another one, I believe, that their host family organisation that they do have of people that you get drafted, they're bringing these guys across the country. You're going to have to make sure they're happy when they get here.
they feel like they're part of the family.
It's not a house.
You become their
It's not
family.
a house in Northbridge or a house on the Gold Coast or
Yeah.
anywhere. And there you go. You go live with Jimbo. No, this is a family
A
environment.
friend of ours, a guy I used to work with, his son, he's Jeff, well, still is, Jeff Garlett. And when Jeff got drafted over to Carlton, he was telling us that apparently Chris Judd at the time was at the club, and Chris used to have a lot of the Aboriginal boys come live with him, and because he was there with Beck, and it's the same thing. They built that kind of family environment so that the guys felt like, you know, because a lot of the Aboriginal players, they do have that, you know, real close family connection, especially when they've come from the middle of the bush where, you know, there's usually about 150 people in the town, to suddenly you're living in Melbourne where it can be a bit overwhelming, and that's what Juddy was trying to do, was look after him, keep them all together. So Juddy used to live with Betsy, and then so they'd have like Yaron, you'd have young Jeffy would live in there all together, and Betsy used to take him out on the town and, you know, show him the right spots to go to and get him back home at a reasonable hour and that. And it's probably one of the other reasons why you hold Betsy in such high regard and Juddy in such high regard, is because they've obviously identified that being obviously Betsy was a South Australian, Juddy had been over in WA for quite a while. They both knew what it was like to be away from home, and done the best thing they can by those guys to kind of look after them and keep them at the club. But there is word at the moment, apparently they're talking to Shaki that if Hodge moves up, that Shaki potentially could be living with Hodgie to keep him at the club.
So how much of it is, like, I know you get into dangerous territory, and obviously that happened with Gary Ablett, a lot of journalists, and I suppose we fit into that category, sort of.
Don't hold back, Bruce.